A Democratic senator wants a new war on drugs. Now, talking to CNN's Jake Tapper, yesterday was Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia. Now, they were recently discussing the very real problem of opioid addiction that is happening in the United States, and it's especially happening to white communities. Now, I'm going to show you this video, and then we're going to break it down later on.
What do you want President-elect Trump to do about this problem, sir?
Well, we need to declare a war on drugs, on illicit drugs, because it's not only going from prescription. You talk to most addicts, and I go to these spots and I talk to them, the recovering addicts, and we've got some places that are really having some success rates, Jake, and most of them are run by reformed addicts. They got started out as a kid smoking occasional, what we call recreational marijuana, and then from there that led into prescriptions taken out of their parents' or grandparents' medicine cabinet and become a cool kid, and then before you know it, it turned into where they just were hooked. Then heroin comes on. Now we have the fentanyl coming on, and it's just been unbelievable.
Yeah, he's right about that. It's just become unbelievable, just like everything you just said. In fact, it is so unbelievable that I do not believe it. That is bullshit. Look, here's some amazing stats first before I get into that. Now, between 1997 and 2011, the number of individuals that were seeking treatment for addiction to opioids increased by a whopping 900%. 900%. That's, wow. That blows my mind. And according to data compiled by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, from 60 million death certificates that they looked at, the rate of fatal heroin overdoses almost tripled between 2010 and 2013. And of course, the majority of people that were affected by this are white people. And now, of course, since most of the victims are white, suddenly a lot of politicians are paying attention, which is good. I think we need to pay attention to this issue, just like we also need to pay the attention to the issue of overdoses and drug deaths in minority communities as well. But anyway, so now there's a big problem here, right? Joe Manchin talks about we need a new war on drugs. But wait, we already have a war on drugs. In fact, we've had a war on drugs for the last 40 years. And you know what happened? We lost. The drugs have won. The drugs have beaten us. Okay? And here's the thing about Manchin, what he says. Not only did he say, let's get a war on drugs, which is absolutely ridiculous, he also tried to tie this into what he called recreational marijuana. Oh, they started out with some little bit of pot, recreational pot and all that. And then suddenly they were stealing pills out of grandpa's medicine cabinet or whatever. And suddenly now they're going to heroin. Yeah, again, that's bullshit. In fact, what he calls recreational marijuana, isn't actually legal in West Virginia, by the way. It's not legal in Kentucky. It's not legal in any of the places that heroin addiction seems to be highest among those the white community. Essentially, what I think Manchin is doing is he's lying his ass off in order to spread basically spread a narrative and to create an agenda against legal marijuana. Now, those stats that I gave you, notice that there are years before the legalization of recreational marijuana in some of these states. For example, you had Colorado and Washington legalize recreational marijuana in 2014. These stats obviously were the biggest leap for addiction were between the years of 1997 and 2011, far before the legalization of recreational marijuana. So just keep that in mind. He is way the fuck off. If he's trying to create a causation here in order to correlate the data, it doesn't work. There is no causation. There is no correlation to this data. Now, in fact, the real cause of the opioid epidemic is the fact that you have pharmaceutical companies out there that are pushing things like OxyContin and trying to get doctors to overprescribe these drugs. Oh, you got a pain in your hangnail? Have some OxyContin. Here you go. Have some opioids. Have some fentanyl. You stubbed your toe. That's not what you do, okay? And see, the problem is, and first they overprescribe it, right? And they do it to a lot of white people, obviously. You take this medication, okay, you will get hooked on this. It is a very addictive medication. The Oxycontins are. And at some point, when their prescription runs out, after they've gotten addicted to it or they can't afford it anymore, they end up turning to something harder, which would be, of course, heroin, which is actually a lot cheaper than getting Oxycontin. So now, these people, they're not bad people. They need help. They need treatment. They don't need another pointless war on drugs that's just going to end them out in prison, okay? You're going to see more people in prison for having a simple medical issue, for being in pain. Now, make no mistake, that addiction, it's not a character flaw. And that's unfortunately what the war on drugs says. No. You're taking drugs, you're addicted to something, you're a bad person, you need to be locked away. That's not what we need to do. That is a war on freedom, okay? This is a condition that requires treatment and support, not prison. Now, unfortunately, we've been going in the complete wrong direction and putting more money into drug enforcement and more money into private prisons. That is not a good thing. And with an incoming Trump administration, I don't see this getting any better. But anyway, now there is some good news about some politicians, especially now that it's hitting the white community. People like Rand Paul are starting to step up and go, maybe we should stop imprisoning people. Now, Rand Paul is from Kentucky, one of the places that's actually hit by this. So, all credit to him. Rand Paul is stepping up and saying, okay, we need to do something about the drug war. We need to do something about this opioid addiction. We need to stop throwing people in prison, which I definitely agree with. But here you have Joe Manchin on the other side, barely a Democrat, by the way, saying, nope, let's do another disastrous war on drugs that will not work. And then, we'll come back in 40 years and see if it did anything. Just like we did with Nixon's war on drugs. I got news for you, Joe. It doesn't work. It doesn't work now. Hasn't worked for the past 40 years. It's not going to work again. And see, this is what upsets me about so-called Democrats like Joe Manchin. He's not actually interested in solving this problem. What he is that he's just demonizing marijuana and spreading propaganda that it's a gateway drug. But no, it's not a gateway drug. And what you're doing is essentially doing more reefer madness, which is insane. These guys, people like him, are so behind when it comes to marijuana. It needs to be legalized, regulated, and taxed. But instead of that, of course, he's saying, no, we need a new war on drugs. No, instead of doing that, we need to end the old war on drugs, legalize marijuana, decriminalize the rest of drugs, use that tax revenue, which, by the way, has been exploding in Colorado and Washington and other places that have legalized, and use that revenue to put into treatment centers instead of funding private prisons and more drug enforcement officers. That's what we need to do. We need to go forward on drug policy, reclassify marijuana, get it off the Schedule 1 list, which, by the way, Schedule 1 means no medicinal value whatsoever. Absolutely wrong. We need to go the right direction and start treating these people if we want to actually solve this problem. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation.